completely depressed, completely sad. We have a partnership with a local grocery store chain in Portugal. We made a deal for him to work the night shift. He could work with his local team in the evenings, so he would still have to start improving his Portuguese, but at least he could start somewhere. And ever since he started working, it changed his world. He was empowered. He realized that he was building something. He was taking steps forward. And so last month, he finally got his residency card that gives him 5 years to be in Portugal, and he doesn't have to worry about papers or anything. All the Portuguese community knows about migrants and refugees is war. At the Lisbon Project, we do a lot of culture celebration. Every month we choose one of the countries that are represented in our community, and we celebrate that country. We celebrate their music, their dance, their food, showing people that these foreigners that are in our country, they're just people. And many times they have great things to add to our community. When we open our eyes to a certain injustice, it just takes willingness for God to use us. Because God is a God of justice. God is a God of leadership. If there's anything we lack, He's the provider to give it to us. When I first saw inequality and I saw injustice, this is not how I thought I was going to use my life. But this is how God wants to use me.
3 years ago, I attended the Global Leadership Summit for the very first time, where John Maxwell literally looked into the camera and called me by name. Now, I may not know your name, and I'm certainly no John Maxwell, but I've flown across the ocean to tell you that there is change waiting to happen with your name on it. And the only question you have to ask yourself is, what will I do? Not necessarily what can I do, because I have learned that the can comes after the will. The ability comes after the availability. I'm well aware that the success of the Lisbon Project is not a product of my 3-page resume or lengthy qualifications. Rather, it is a result of 22-year-old me simply saying yes. Yes to going beyond my comfort zone. Yes to going beyond the expectations that so often limit us. Yes to seeing the injustice that disturbed me as an invitation to create change. And maybe you don't have to start something new. Maybe, just maybe, there's already movement happening around you, and you just have to say yes to jumping in. You see, I may have started the Lisbon Project, but I am only standing here today before all of you, thanks to over 130 men and women who have volunteered over the past 2 years with their skills, their time, and their resources. Men and women who said yes to going beyond with me. Thanks to the Global Leadership Summit, I was able to listen to the prompting that was already shouting from within my heart. I was taken from mere sight and given a vision. And so I want to stand here today and say thank you to all those who contribute to making the Global Leadership Summit available in so many nations of the world, including Portugal. The GLS not only triggered me into action, but it has helped form the substance of my leadership ever since. It has spotlighted the power of my influence and confronted me with how I choose to use it. Today, the Lisbon Project has gone from being a crazy idea to being a well-established nonprofit organization that has assisted in the integration and protection of over 400 migrants and refugees from all over the world in the city of Lisbon. So as I return home and as we grow, we will continue to live the motto we have so often experienced. It is only impossible until it is done. And so the questions for you remain: what will you do with your influence? What will you do with the invitation to create change wherever you are, wherever you find yourself? What is your grander vision? Thank you.
At the age of 31, Asia Brown made history as the youngest elected mayor of Compton, California. A national trailblazer, her vision focused on family values, quality of life, economic development, and infrastructural growth. Brown started a gang reduction and intervention initiative, resulting in a record low for homicides in over 2 decades. She also reduced the unemployment rate by 50%, while successfully attracting new companies and employment to the city. By making these major strides in her first term, she was overwhelmingly re-elected to a second 4-year term in 2017. As a strong advocate for youth, women's rights and equality, Mayor Brown has received a number of honours, including the National Action Network Martin Luther King Award, as well as the esteemed John F. Kennedy New Frontier Award. Please give a warm summit welcome to Mayor Asia Brown.
Such an honor to be here today, and we're all here in the audience tuning in from campuses around the world because regardless of where we've come from or where we are, we're all dedicated to making a difference. We're committed to shaking things up. We've decided to be a force for change. We've dedicated to overcoming obstacles. We're invested in being a catalyst for progress. Whether we are leading the way as the head of our teams, organizations, lead ministry, a member of a team, or we may just be here for the most important leadership of all, leading ourselves. Regardless of where you've been or where you're going, you are it. And let's face it, people are usually more apt to change when system failure is imminent. If there is no new course of action and the need for change is less tied to being efficient and more tied to survival. In order to utilize vision to move the mission forward, a clear understanding about timing is essential and can make or break your cause. I've learned through serving that there is a huge difference between being busy and being fruitful. Being fruitful is tied to production. Being busy is tied to actions, not results. Jumpstarting catalytic change is a direct byproduct of vision, buy-in, collaboration, and timing. When all of these factors are firing on all cylinders, production is imminent. Let's face it, we've all been a part of something that just wasn't producing. I can almost guarantee you that one of the 4 factors I just mentioned, vision, buy-in, collaboration, and timing, were out of sync. Let's get into it. In order to overcome with vision, you'll need to understand 4 key principles. Vision is the vehicle to creating momentum. If we can be honest, most of us can admit that we want to go fast. We don't like delays. No one wants to go anywhere slowly. We all have an inherent need for speed when it comes to wanting to accomplish goals. Vision is that vehicle that enables us to pivot to a new direction and get to the fast track. I'm going to share my story. When I first ran for mayor of the city of Compton, I knew that our city needed a dynamic change, but I also knew that it was critical to connect with stakeholders and educate myself on what they believed the key issues were in our community. All constituencies are different, and your biggest challenges may vary from neighborhood to neighborhood. I held a focus group and asked for feedback on key issues and community indicators, and I also discussed my recommendations based on what I heard and what I had prepared in advance. And one thing I just want to underscore is that everyone is an expert at their own post, and you cannot lose by gaining information from those that you're serving. Whether it's where they live, the department they lead, the widget that they make, people are a critical resource, and sometimes people in position can take that for granted. I want to just encourage you to grab John Maxwell's 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, and he talks about positional leadership and leading with influence. Visioning is a process. Obviously, it involves stakeholders. It also ensures that you are not working in a silo. And it also gives those voices of criticism a way to vent and come to the surface so that you can be tactical and address them head on. At the end of the day, building and creating any significant change requires buy-in. The leader should draw from those that they serve in order to get alignment to your organization and also to create unity in order for common ground and goals to be identified. And one action point: define shared progress up front. Be clear on what you define progress to be, or you'll allow someone else to do it for you. Second point, vision is power. Strategically deployed, launching a vision is equivalent to sending a heat-seeking missile into the atmosphere. The missile may encounter obstructions and delays that requires a new route to be calculated, but eventually, the missile will hit the target. The vision will manifest. The great thing about vision, it doesn't rely on one person. It relies on many. Once vision goes forward, the atmosphere begins conforming to that declaration. Vision is power. Vision is a consensus builder. Vision is a force multiplier. Vision activates. Vision clarifies. Vision amplifies. Vision excites. Vision charts a new course. Vision is the vehicle of momentum. Vision corrects. Vision affects. Visions manifest, and the vision will speak. My third point, vision relies on timing to be fruitful and to produce results. We find confirmation on this key principle in God's word, and this is one of my foundational scriptures for my leadership that God called me to. And it's Habakkuk 2, verse 2 and 4. And it says, "The Lord answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain upon tablets, that he that read it may," excuse me, let me back up. Let me get that right. "And the Lord answered me and said, write the vision down and make it plain, that he that may read it can run with it." And verse 3 says, "The revelation of waits an appointed time. It speaks of the end, and it will not prove false. Though it linger, wait for it, and it will certainly come, and it will not delay." Certain conditions must be met in order to pick up momentum. And when we think about the power of what was just said, if you cast your vision and it's clear, people have the ability to pick up and join in. When you think about timing, all of us have been in positions where we wanted things to change immediately and effectively. But in the reality, God has another plan, and his timing is perfect. And if you wait on that timing, the vision will manifest. Lastly, I cannot underscore this point enough, that you have to be prepared. Having that strategy ready to meet the timing and produce fruitful results is critical, and that's what that vision does for us. I have a few topics I'm going to go over. The first is, how can we hone this vision? The first thing is to identify your objective. One simple question to ask to help us do this is, where do we want to take the team? By defining a destination point, people can know where we all want to go, and also informs everyone on how they can be a part of the bigger picture. Second point is, define that progress. Establish critical milestones. Having midway points helps to delay fatigue. People can understand where they need to take a drink of water. Indicators are helpful for us, and they keep us moving forward in fruitful movement. The third is, establish your priorities. You think about what must be addressed now. Identify what can wait. Delay is not a denial. It just means critical resources must be appropriated elsewhere in order to achieve the larger vision. Fourth point, communication plan is essential to achieving meaningful participation and buy-in. It's an essential ingredient to create momentum. People can't go with you if they don't know where you want to go, so communicating often is critical in order to get that momentum. Number 5 is, identify obstacles in advance. We have to be tactical when we're affecting change. We have to know that there will be opposition. There will be people that don't want to go in a new direction. That's natural. So ensure that you have mapped that out. The 6th is, formulate your navigation plan. As I just said, you need to be able to navigate over your obstacles and through them. Number 7 is, stay focused and informed. And this is really essential for the leader. When you're in a position, when you're leading people, places, or things, people will have their own agenda. And it may be good, but it may not be God. You have to ensure that the vision that you've set out is where you're going, and that you dedicate your critical resources to moving that forward. Now, I wish I had arrived at some of these conclusions based on successes, but the reality is I've encountered my share of setbacks, obstacles, attacks, but I've learned that they weren't defeats, they were delays. And they were crafted to force me to grow in areas that I didn't know needed to be developed. Perceived delays, quote unquote, are imminent, and they're a part of the process, so expect them and plan for them. And remember, once again, that vision will manifest itself at the right time. What seems like a delay is, in this space, is where you have an opportunity to adjust and to be able to activate. Many people abandon the vision at this critical point because they believe that they failed. And you do not fail unless you quit. This is where you keep going. Change will certainly come. I've definitely encountered my share of obstacles serving a city that was plagued with generational and institutional corruption and mismanagement. There is no easy fix. When I was first elected and came into a city, we had a $43 million deficit. We had about 40% of our employees were on furlough. Our unemployment rate within the city was over 19%. Our crime had peaked. And we know that we knew that we needed to change directions and that we needed to do something different, but we didn't even have the resources to make that pivot. And so what I did was I assessed what were the critical things that needed our attention and resources, and then I directed the organization. And also the biggest thing that we did was collaboration, bringing stakeholders together toward this vision. Next, thank you. Next, please. Thank you. Tackling change. Challenging the status quo. All of us have been in positions where the status quo is the overarching culture that we're operating in. And in order to understand how to navigate that, we have to be able to understand that the vision will lay out where we need to go, and that the stakeholders that you've been able to come together and that are a part of that vision, they'll help you create the momentum to go over that obstacle. It's a key indicator that you're on the right track to affect change. If you aren't encountering resistance and you aren't challenging systems and paradigms and you're keeping things the same. I want to share a quick story about our gang intervention efforts. When I came into office in 2013, crime had spiked. We had a resource drain, and I knew that I couldn't hire additional police. I had to make sure that we employed the resources that we had, and so we started a focus group. We brought a team together. We put together a strategy. We worked that strategy, and when we got to the point where we needed to bring additional people in, I called a meeting, and because of the work that we had done on the ground, gang members in my community, they were willing to come into our city and sit down in our community center and just talk about where we needed to go as a community. They talked about what their issues were. They talked about what they needed to succeed. They talked about what kept them from being a positive part of society. And most importantly, they talked about what their vision was for their families. And that found the common ground, because at the end of the day, we all wanted a healthy, vibrant, prosperous community. And they just didn't know how to navigate their challenges in order to be a positive contribution. And so we set out, I challenged them that if they can keep crime low, then we can bring additional companies in. We were successful in bringing in 3 Fortune 500 companies in our city, which in turn created over 1,000 jobs in our community. We also hired ex-gang members and trained them. Thank you on that point. Sorry about that. Great pause. But we were able to train them in the field of construction. We gave them leadership development, life skills. And once they completed those steps, then we dispatched them in different areas for them to be successful. To this day, many are still thriving. They're earning great livable wages, taking care of their family. Hope is restored. In our community, crime is still at historic lows. And when I tell you that we did not spend an additional dollar in policing, it's just amazing that what can manifest when people are on one page with one vision working together. And I just touched on opposition. Now, of course, who can come against such a positive movement, right? But of course, there were people that didn't want this to happen. There were political opposition, people that didn't want to see our city transform. And so we created this program, and it was eventually politically defunded. And I was able, through collaboration, to bring in a new partner to fund that program even greater than it was initially. And the action is still going forward, and our community is still prospering. And so that's just a prime example that it's not even about your resources, but if you have that vision, you connect, you get the buy-in, you have the momentum, then you can achieve your measurable results. I want to talk about collaboration. Collaboration is your force multiplier. It's the only way to maintain momentum. It's critical to stay tapped into your leadership. Staying connected is the only way to keep your momentum focused and growing. Empowering people is essential. We have to combat the urge to want to be the pinnacle of your leadership. The more leaders that you can develop, the stronger your team will be, and the further that you can go faster and the more results that you can attain. It's all about equipping one another. The more people that are on program, the more people that can bring more resources, the broader your leadership fan will be, and you'll be able to continue to multiply those efforts. Leadership is about multiplication. Benefits. You can overcome your knowledge gaps. You can overcome your resource drains. You can strengthen the skill sets of your organizations and capacity shortcomings. And you also, most critically, you can expand your perspective. And that will ensure that you are able to to shrewdly navigate where you need to go. One action point, I just want to encourage you all, regardless of where you are, regardless of what you do, make an inventory of potential stakeholders that can help fill the need or fill the role in where you are trying to go. And I'll share a quick story. One of the efforts that we are working on in our community was really to have all of our resources in one place. And so the city, as I said, was at a huge deficit. We didn't have the luxury of just creating or redirecting resources, and so we relied on collaboration. And because of having a vision and having great stakeholders that came on board, we were able to create a resource hub that is in turn servicing our community. They have generated over $20 million in grant funding collaboratively that in turn services our community. And again, this was at no additional cost to the city. When I think about how faith has helped really lead my role, it's the foundation of who I am. And when I think about the key aspects of what a great leader is, I don't consider myself to be an accomplished or a significant leader like John Maxwell or other people, but I think that everyone has an awesome opportunity to affect change wherever they are. And that effective change, whether you're affecting 3 people or you're working in youth ministry and you're affecting 10 people, or whether it's thousands, having that ripple in someone's life is just a great way to invest in your time. And as we heard earlier, it's a great way to just be a part of God's mission in your life. When I talk about the gospel, we can't be ashamed. Many of us, and it's not to wear the gospel on your sleeve, but it's to just be an effective person of integrity, to be who you say that you are, to do what you say you're going to do. That's the biggest witness that you ever can have. And God desires to partner with all of us in the earth. We are his instruments. And the greatest impact and witness that we as believers can have is how we live and what we do on a daily basis. Be that light, affect that change, and be unapologetic of it. And the funny thing, when we think about that Christ is the light of the world, we're the light, but light doesn't have a sound. It just shines. And even the deepest of deep, light radiates and it cannot be hidden. Our faith requires us to give God glory. And when I do, I'm grateful that he uses all of us. And we're all interconnected. We're all members of one body. And so as you all embark your leadership journeys, think about how you can utilize vision to be that vehicle to affect change, how you can use vision to overcome your obstacles, how you can use vision to create momentum, how you can use vision as that vehicle for collaboration, and ultimately that you can use vision to direct change. Thank you all for the opportunity.
Good morning, everybody. We did this a couple times on day one, and we'd like to take another strategic pause. Just hit that pause button. Let's ponder. Let's reflect. There's so much good material. It can kind of be like drinking from a fire hose. So let's just take a moment to step back and think about what we've heard from these 2 amazing leaders today, from Chris and from Asia, whether it was mirroring and getting a hard no, tactical empathy, or the importance of vision from Asia. What we want you to do right now, and we're going to do this for the next couple of